Are you ready? It is time for KMB Talk. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of KMB Talk. I am your host, Kerry Michael Bennett. Thanks for joining. We have a fantastic show in store today. Leadership is the discussion topic. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. We have CEO of Dude Solutions, Ed Roshitsh, on the phone. Ed, how are you doing?
I am doing great, and you nailed my last name. I appreciate it.
Hey, took a little bit of practice. So, honestly, I was worried. So, have you ever dislocated your shoulder?
I have not.
Okay, I have a similar pain happening right now. I do not have a dislocated shoulder. But for some reason, Tuesday afternoon, I walk around the corner. I wish I had an epic story to tell about some really cool injury, but I literally wasn't even holding a laundry basket. And snap, something happened. So I've been suffering my way through it throughout the week. And last night, very sleepless night. And I'm tossing and turning. And about 3 a.m, I said, oh, gosh. And I sit on the edge of the bed and I go, oh, man. And I'm trying to be very quiet because I don't want to wake my spouse. It's like, oh, man. True to form, my wife goes, what are you all manning about? I've been up since 2.
Awesome. I've been there.
So we, look, turned the coffee on. We actually played a few really good games of Chinese checkers and played with the labs. So I went to wake the boy up, the 10-year-old, and said, hey, man, we've been up 5 hours, so be gentle with us. But I appreciate your making some time, Ed. Friday, hope all is going well on your end. What state are you in today?
Oh, first, thanks for having me. And I am actually in North Carolina, and it's been a busy day. I've been moving around between cities, and I am actually sitting in the parking lot of a Walmart in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I figured that'd be the closest thing to silence I could get.
It would be. And as many CEOs that I have met and interacted with, I've never met one that was not busy. And I think that all of them would agree that sometimes in your car in a parking lot is the best place to have this type of conversation.
It's a sanctuary.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with the obvious. Well, it may not be obvious to you, but for all of us that aren't familiar with Dude Solutions, first off, Dude Solutions, the naming is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Are there a lot of, I'm assuming there's a lot of dude jokes and phrases within the organization?
We've heard them all. And, the Big Lebowski is something that we hear all the time. And, all sorts of other, sort of California movies. The genesis of the name actually is pretty funny. We make software to automate really boring stuff in facilities for facility managers. So. Okay. Break fix type stuff. So, HVAC for a school in room 312 isn't working. A teacher or a custodian, what have you, can enter in a ticket. It registers, lights up a bunch of workflows to get the thing fixed and tracked and all that. So, the back to the genesis of the name, when the company was being formed about 20 years ago. So the corporate myth speaks. Our founders were like, look, we want something short, something that people would remember. And then they were talking to a bunch of potential prospects, and they all referred to, we got to get the HVAC dude in, or we got the heater dude, or the electric dude, or whatever. And the two founders sort of looked at each other and were like, oh, let's go see if dude.com is taken up. And this is back in 1999 before, everything.
Before domain speculation really took off, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they got it. Yeah.
Well, you're right, though, because when you need something fixed, it's always, get that guy or that dude or that person, right?
Yeah, totally. And as you know, like the word guy, dude now is so ubiquitous.
Yep.
So we've got, a good mix, probably 50-50 mix on the gender. And
yep.
I've actually, some of the ladies in the office are like, when you don't call them dude, they get offended.
Right.
So it's, right. So.
Hey, okay. So Dude Solutions and doing the research. Wow. You have Dude Day, Dude Nation, Dude University. I mean, the culture is really enamored with this.
It's strong.
It's strong. What exactly is Dude University?
So Dude University, we've been doing this for about 18 years now. We invite our clients to come in. We have about 12,000 organizations using our software across the
Wow.
U.S. We take a selection of clients who want to come there, and it's a little bit of education, a little bit of inspiration, and
Okay.
a little bit of sort of forward view. But it's an amazing event. Lots of high fives and hugs. I've never seen a group of people network and enjoy each other's company and trade information. When you think about facility managers for schools or government facilities, et cetera, they're not competing with each other. So it really is a mind meld in a lot of ways to get folks there. But we've got a dude mascot that people run up and get pictures taken. We actually have, I met him actually in person last week. We actually have some folks that actually get dude logo tattoos. That's how much they love our
Oh,
company. It's pretty crazy.
okay. Are you being serious with me?
I am serious. I'll send you the picture if you
You
want it.
you have you
Yeah,
have you have my cell. I text me this photo. I need to see this.
I'll do it. I'll do it right now. I think I
Dude
can pull it up.
tattoos. Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And okay, so my wife is a professional. She's a singer. She's a
Mhm.
musician, and when I was looking on the internet and doing some research, I saw Dude University, and one of the first images I saw was an '80s rock band, and I'm assuming that's the entertainment for the event.
Yeah, we've got an '80s cover band where we've got an arena, a sports arena, Red Hat Arena, I think, where we're going to have our main entertainment event, and we've got a cover band, and we'll probably have 1,500 or so people rocking out, enjoying some '80s music.
It's hard to go wrong with the '80s selection as far as really appealing to a wide audience.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there. But the whole Dude Nation thing, whether you're a client or getting your paycheck from the dude, like people really get into it. It is a mission. Our software, at its core, helps keep kids warm, safe, and dry, and government places looking spiffy. Places where we heal, comfortable and safe as well. So people are not just necessarily motivated by a paycheck. They can clearly see, like, the work I do is going to keep 70% of America in a good spot when they walk into a shared facility.
That is really an interesting way to put it. I think that there's, especially for the newer people coming into the workforce. So let's assume I'm a recent graduate. You don't really have the resume. You don't have the experience yet. So let's say your resume is really kind of academic based, and here's what I was involved with: civics, organizations, and volunteerism, etc. And you, at least this was for me, and I've had a lot of newer graduates say this is, and now no, let me back up. It is changing, but they're just hoping to get a job. They need a paycheck, right?
Yep.
But to get into an organization that has that type of culture that Dude Solutions has, to me, that's what's called psychic income. And you have to ask yourself, if I'm making X amount of dollars at Dude Solutions and another organization offers me the exact same role, how much more will I need to be compensated to walk away from the culture? And those studies are phenomenal, because at the end of the day, it demonstrates it's not the compensation that's the most important, it's the culture. It's how you feel when you go to work, how you feel when you're at work, and how you feel when you're away from work.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I came actually to the company 16 months ago. I was looking for three Ps actually.
Okay.
At this stage of my career, I'm 55. I've been around the block a few times with software companies. I was like, my last gig, there are three things that are important to me, and they all just happen to start with P. It wasn't any plan. First off, people. I wanted to work around some nice, smart, fast people. Check the box here. The
Okay.
second is sort of that product passion, mission. Hey, or what we're doing important? And talking about schools and healthcare facilities and making sure that these places are in top-notch order, like that's a good mission to get
It,
involved in. And then
absolutely.
and then possibilities. Our company is growing quickly. It's one of the fastest growing software companies. We're a market leader in our space, and I don't know about you, but I like being around things that are growing rather than flat or down. That's a whole lot more fun.
Oh, it is. And okay, so I've spent the last 7 years in banking.
Mm, that's a fist fight.
It is a fist fight. The competition for deposits is unreal, and unfortunately, we still have banks out there that are convinced they're only competing with banks. They're not
Mm,
even really willing to acknowledge the disruptors as major players, but yet they're there. So, to your point, yes, an organization and an industry that's growing is fantastic. Okay, let's talk about Ed for a moment on the personal side. I have discovered that you are an ultra endurance athlete, and specifically that you have competed in the Ironman.
hmm
How many times have you done that?
yeah. I always shift in my seat talking about myself. It's not something that anybody really likes to do, but yeah, I've been an ultra endurance athlete now for going on 20 years.
Oh goodness.
Uh, yeah, I've done 10 Ironman competitions, more marathons and sprint triathlons, half marathons that I can shake a stick at. Last couple of years, I've been focusing on ultra distance running. Running across the state of Georgia, for example, 260 miles. Running, the
Wow.
Swamp Fox 215 was a 215 miler. These are multi-day, really harsh conditions, and I enjoy the heck out of it. It helps you break through a lot of
Yes, it does.
self-imposed barriers, and really enjoyable, and great people to hang out with.
And let's be honest, the endorphin rush feels amazing.
It totally does. And that actually probably is what got me where I am now with that. I started with a 5K and I was like, that's interesting. Got to 10K and then a half a marathon, then a full marathon. And, I walked into the office one day after a marathon, and one of the guys was like, oh, you think you're pretty special, don't you? And I was like, nah, it's just a marathon. And he goes, well, you ought to stick a 2.4 mile swim in front of it and a 112-mile bike ride before we talk again. And so that got me introduced into triathlon and Ironman.
All right, let's talk about the Ironman real quick. So, uh, Kailua Kona. Have you done the Iron? That's what we're talking
Uh,
about, right?
yeah, well, there are 10 to 20, and probably even more now,
Oh, okay.
qualifiers to get to Kona. Kona these days, you have to be the best of the best of the best in your age group, or
Okay.
win a lottery, which I felt, no disrespect towards people who get in via lottery. That's cool too. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to get there because my name was drawn out of a hat. I want to get there because I'm fast enough,
Got it.
and I never was. Or a bike sponsor or somebody put you there. But so I've done several of the I guess the regional sort of races qualifiers, like Ironman Arizona 3 times, Louisville 3 times, Florida 3 times. There's something called the Duke Iron Devil, which was trying to get sanctioned for the Ironman logo, and I did that one time. And but it is 2,000 people getting in the water at the same time.
It's intense.
It's intense, harsh. Uh, Anywhere, for mere mortals like myself, anywhere from 9.5 hours to 17 hours to get through one of these things, and usually tough conditions.
So, true story. I was living in Kauai, Hawaii, which is about 30,
Nice.
35 miles north of Kailua Kona. And so I lived in Hawaii on Big Island for about 8 years. And the first half, I lived on the water, or very close to the water. And the second half, I got up in the mountains in the rainforest where it was a lot cooler. However, first 4 years, just north of Kauai, 2-lane highway, lava desert fields that the athletes are competing on the cyclist or cycle route at that point. So it's the proper thing to do. The locals are fantastic about getting out and supporting. And I wanted to see if you were one of those athletes, because if you were, I wanted to apologize for being the guy in a lawn chair holding a beer uh,
You and pretty much every other person.
while you were
Um,
suffering.
yeah. Well, it's so funny you say that, because there's in every race there's a bunch of folks who have had more than one beer, and some of them are even smoking, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's easy, you got this," and you're just like, especially when you get to about 12, 13 hours in, the last thing you want to hear is some
Oh.
guy, half drunk, yelling at you with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth about how easy it is.
That
Yeah, just put one foot in front of the other. It's
just
easy. Yeah,
you're like, no, you don't understand, dude. You don't understand.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears one more time. CEO, ultra endurance athlete, author.
Hmm.
A,
Yeah,
a solid handshake, integrity lessons for new leaders.
yep.
I'm a little disappointed, and I'll tell you why.
All
My
right.
Through no fault of your own, my copy got delayed, and is now my notification is that it comes tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to have it read this week before we spoke, so uh, look, Postal Service or whoever, it's no big deal. I was able to do a lot of research. I feel like I've read it. I'm still excited to read it. Uh, but my first thing that really, my first question is, when I was looking through the book, I can think of a lot of tenured, mature leaders that need to read this book. And I thought it
Yeah,
was so intriguing that in the title you put the word new leaders. Is that just
that's an
humility?
I think partly humility for sure,
Okay.
but also I have found that the earliest time in a leader's career, if you can shape them towards taking the right path, walking the straight line, that's when you catch them. I grew up sort of as a sales rep, and what I found is if you work for a disintegrous leader and that's how you learn how to get stuff done, that just follows you, and that's the path you take in your sales career. And so when I was thinking about who I was targeting the book for, it was really for that first time leader, maybe second time early leader, to really try to give them an insight on how much and how important and vital integrity is and how you lead. People will give you a lot of leeway if they know you're being honest and truthful and trying to do the best you can with the incomplete data or challenging circumstances you have. So it was primarily aimed at new leaders.
Well, I so to me, excuse me, I think it's very interesting and a positive thing that the differentiator is leading with integrity in this particular realm. Talk of leadership. You and I both, we have definitely been exposed to leaders that have a sense of entitlement.
Hmm.
And let's not spend the time really highlighting that type of leadership. But
Yep.
I cannot describe to you how excited I am when I'm looking at reviews and a leader is saying, okay, this is a fantastic read for a new leader. It is a fantastic read for a seasoned leader. But I handed this to my 14-year-old, and it was a fantastic read for them. This book transcends business leadership with the principles that you're introducing.
Well, thank you. That's I got chills up my spine hearing that. The review, your review there was really nice.
Can you talk? Yeah,
It's so
can you talk to us about some of these principles?
yeah. Well, I think certainly they're timeless. Although maybe in the time that I wrote them, there was some very sort of current news. But for example, there are 250 million smartphones out in the market right now, in people's hands, etc. Every one of them is equipped with a camera, recorder, ways to text, ways to post, ways to basically observe life in any way, shape, or form. One of the lessons of the book is the idea that, hey, you're on stage 24/7 now with the technology we have in place. And if you think you're getting away with something, you're going to get caught sooner or later. And you got to get comfortable with the fact that um, living with integrity and having all of these devices around, um,
Wow.
is sort of the way we live these days. And great recent example with a certain CEO of Amazon, with all the trouble he's had with texts and things like that here
Right.
recently. It's just punctuates that point. If a guy like that, can get in trouble with phone usage, it's a clarion call, a great lesson for the rest of us to be really thoughtful about what we're doing, because you never know who might catch it
That's
and
yeah.
text it to your boss, your spouse, your friends. It's that goes with all the social posting and things like that. People are looking at your profiles these days before they make hiring decisions. They're not supposed to, but they do,
They
and
do. They
you got to
do.
be really thoughtful about what your life is about, and what people might be able to observe with the internet.
The comment that you make about or the fact that we're talking about the role of a cell phone is so interesting to me, because I really don't think many of us are, or any of us are, immune to the possible mistakes that can come with it. And there's the old school butt dial, right? Sometimes that's the only reason my kid calls me is a butt dial, and I hear kids
Yep.
playing on a playground. But I will admit I'm not the greatest fan of Las Vegas. I understand it's wonderful for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, but maybe it's just kind of that old school Hawaii, too much stimulation. However, it's a joke, but it's real. One of the greatest billboards I've ever seen was in Vegas, and it simply said, "I did not text you, the vodka did."
Nice. I
and
love
and it's
that.
real. But and I laughed, and I looked at my wife, and she laughed, and we all. It's real. It is real. That cell phone can work against you in the
Yeah,
in
it
the
sure
in the
can.
wrong set of circumstances. So, well,
It sure can. I think another real lesson from the book is the idea that it might be harder to walk that path of the straight and narrow, for sure. Fear of missing out, taking the easy path to get stuff done. But I would submit, and I've observed it in the people I've worked with and in my own life, that when you take that harder path, it usually over the long haul is the easiest path. It might not be at that point of contact the easiest thing to do, to say no,
right.
or take the Y road versus the X road. But over time, it usually pays off, and certainly from a a stress point, it's much easier to go to sleep at night knowing you did the best you could and made the right decisions, the honest decisions, versus tossing and turning in bed at night, worrying about getting caught, or did you button up the story well enough,
Right.
or spin it well enough to not get your butt in trouble.
You can't see, but you said that, and I threw my hands in the air. I literally have shared that with young leaders before. Is you need to make sure that you're always able to go to sleep with a clear conscience.
Yeah, absolutely.
That if you can do that, that's a great barometer for you're operating in the right realm. If you can go to sleep uh, with a clear conscience, because it's not easy to act with integrity. It is not easy to be ethical these days. It really is not. Uh,
It really isn't. Even the external conditions, like I, as a CEO, for example, I operate on a lot of things with 70% of the information I need to make a perfect decision.
yep.
So the battle is tough enough, even when you're trying to do the right thing, and then layering on, taking a low path on top of that 70% incomplete, 70% complete information, makes it all that harder. And I have learned people will forgive you for bad decisions made with the right intent and integrity because of all that incomplete information, or boy, it seemed like a great idea at the time. What they will not forgive is the idea of pulling wool over their eyes, or trying to pull a fast one. Those are unforgivable sins. Battle fog sins are usually forgiven.
Well, literally, you're a captain of a nuclear submarine that's lost communications, and
Yep.
to your point, 70% of the information, and you have to make a decision. It might be the wrong decision, but integrity is really how you're going to be judged. And we're all going to be judged there's always that panel, and it could be a family at home, right? An employee
Yep.
of yours that you don't really know them all that well, but oh, you mean the world to them and to their family and their children and their spouse. It's amazing, the power of integrity. I really, truly commend you for putting integrity at the forefront of your leadership principles. Okay, I've got a few other compliments I'd like to pay you here. I hope you're comfortable with receiving. I'm not one to give out too many too easily, but I think you've earned them. Let me see if I can pull this one up. Do you mind? Well, you have information that's public, so I'm going to quote it.
Okay.
There are 154 million people in the U.S. Were you just promoted into management? You feeling a little big in the britches? Guess what? There's 24 million of you.
Yep.
Congrats, but you're not that special. Just get over it. Oh, you're a new CEO? Hey, there's 300,000 of us. Great job. Get back to work. And what I really love about this post that you shared is that you're really saying that all of us in leadership are really small in the scheme of the universe. That, look, you're one of 24 million or you're one of 300,000, depending upon your role. But really, if you're able to make a positive impact in a meaningful way to 8 human beings, 80, 800, 8,000, that's the big deal. And here's where you said it. That's the big deal. The title on your business card, not so much. I love it, okay? And I know that there are fellow leaders out there that feel that way. I know them. They're great human beings, and they're very successful with what they do. But the compliment I want to pay, well, I want to compliment you on the thought, but I really want to compliment you on putting that out there. I think we need more senior leaders that are not afraid to put that type of content out, because what happens for the newer leaders, they're looking at you and your peers, and they're going to model your behaviors, and they're going to take a thought that you share, and maybe they're a runner. You know how it is when you're running, your mind goes everywhere. They can take this, it really drives home, and subsequently 20 years later, 30 years later, they're now in a CEO role, and unbeknownst to you, you're shaping how they lead by sharing this type of content.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate you saying that and reading that post. And I write what I feel on those types of things, and I'd like to think that the people that I work with and am privileged to coach, that they see that in action every day. I am sure I screw up at least 10 times a week. We all do, but I get up every morning, thinking about that, and how can I impact an individual or a team? It's so it's humorous, and it's one of those things that makes me scratch my head is when you see like an individual that gets promoted and now they're running a team of 8 people, and all of a sudden they feel like they are 10-foot tall, bulletproof, the smartest people on the face of the planet. And with all that I've personally been able to accomplish and all that, 650 people in this scheme of 158 million employed, I ain't touching that many people.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let me shift gears. I've got one more.
Okay.
I love this. One thing I honestly do not like about my job as a CEO is my inability to spend quality time with every person I serve. Okay, stop. You use the word serve. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So if you are a senior executive out in the world and you're listening to this right now, I would challenge all of us to replace the word lead with serve. I think it will really shift the perspective. And granted, we're serving our investors and we all have fiduciary responsibilities and our clients. However, our employees, so I'll get too excited talking about servant leadership. So let me keep reading, but thank you for saying serve. And what you're doing here in this post is you're saying, I have 650 people that I work with, and I'm frustrated. I'm wanting to have a quality, meaningful relationship with each of them. However, the cards are stacked against me when it comes to the clock. Even an hour a year with every employee is 25% of my year. That's not the best use of time for a CEO. But as
Exactly.
a CEO, that's what you're really, really wanting. And here's what there's many things I enjoyed about this. But at the end of the day, what you're saying is things that you're doing to try to hedge the gap, try to close the gap. Okay. So be it a group dinner or meeting, open invite for coffee, things of that, et cetera. But at the end of the day, what I see is Ed very clearly telling his 650 teammates, if you see me, stick your hand out, say hello if I don't beat you to it, and you conclude with, it is great to serve you. Ed, wow, that's awesome.
No, I thank you again for that. I try to live that that whole idea of spending an hour with each employee. I can't do that. I can't lever, but I can try to do things to get me out there. So one of the things I like to do when I have a couple of hours and I'm just working on, I hate to say something routine, is we have a bunch of common areas, and I'll just park my laptop in those common areas and sit down and start doing my work. And as people come by, say hi. I know enough of them now where it's like, oh, hey, you're training for the Boston Marathon. How's that going? Or, it's so funny. I often know people's dogs' names before I recognize the face of the name, and I actually make a little name of it, a little game of it. Like there's a lady that works for us named LA, and she's got a dog named Gus, and so when I see her, I go lag, LAG with the dog, and so it sort of sticks in my head. But it's those little things, because I think the more I get to know folks and what might help them or motivate them, or what they're inspired by, I could be looking for opportunities for the company and
Mm-hmm.
and to get into that. Plus, I also think I had a couple of companies were pretty large, and these C-suite people were these almost like Oz-like characters. They were often talked about but never seen, and never. And
I
you
know
know,
them.
I
I know
yeah,
them.
I want to. In some ways, I want to demystify what being a CEO is, because I'm not special. I've just been around the track a few more times than most of the people that I work with, and I've had some experiences that give me, some perspective at this level. But I can guarantee you, you sit me down in front of a keyboard, and even if you had like a programming for dummies book, I could never do what our engineers do. They're like artists and
Oh,
talented, and you could sit me in that room for the rest of my life and I'd never be able to crank out two lines of code that made sense. So they do what they do, I do what I do. We're all in this together. We all either get across the line together or we all fail together, and
right.
that's the way I look about it. Yeah.
Right. No, you're absolutely correct. So again, my wife, a professional singer, I can help her and her team on many things from a business perspective, and be it financing or promotion. Or I'm not an expert really in any of the areas, but I at least have enough information to know what questions to ask of those
Hmm.
experts. However, you asked me to go in the booth and sing. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, you and me
So
both.
exact same translation with your, discussing coding. Greatest CEO in the world, but if you're a software as a service company and you can't code, you are dependent upon those skill sets.
Totally.
So, wow. Well, Ed, I really appreciate your taking some time to get on the call with us. One last question for you, good sir.
Sure. Thank
There
you.
are several ways I could phrase this. Let's go ahead and focus this up on newer leaders. So let's pretend that right now there are, I am so sorry, some viewers and some listeners out there that are preparing to enter the workforce. What advice does Ed have?
This is going to sound very cliche,
Okay.
but it is so important. Pick up every book you can, listen to every podcast you can, go to every seminar you can. You have got to fill your head with as much, not to be silly with software, but with as much code information that you can. So this life comes at you, leadership challenges come at you, people challenges come at you. You might have read about it, or you might have heard a great podcast. And even today, I probably listen to 10 to 15 hours of podcasts a week. I probably read 50 books a year. Uh, in between everything else I do, and I learn two or three things every time I pick up a book or every podcast. So I would tell every leader, everybody entering the workforce, your education should never stop. And I would say that that's what delineates people that actually bubble up through the ranks a little bit. They're typically the most knowledgeable about a lot of things and can call on a lot of archival information and ideas to make better decisions.
So curiosity is a soft skill that you're looking for in a C-suite candidate.
Totally.
Yep. Yep.
Totally. That, lots of character issues, but certainly intellectual curiosity. And, I'm always amazed, like, hey, they always say, oh yeah, I love to read. Oh, what are you reading right now? And they're like,
Deer in the
yeah,
headlights.
what do you got on your nightstand right now? And, they're just telling me what I want to hear. Right.
Right. Well, hopefully tomorrow I will be reading your book, and I look forward to that. So, Ed, thank you so much for coming on the call, and have a fantastic afternoon. And I look forward to getting that picture text to me. I need to see these tattoos.
I'll do it right after. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you if any of your listeners hung out to hear my last words.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ed, and to all of our viewers and listeners, until next time. Thank you for listening to KMB Talk. You don't have to click home, but you can't stay here.